Welcome back to the SecureLink, your podcast dedicated to cybersecurity and IT. I'm Ananya, your host, and today we're thrilled to have Mr. Yogesh Madaan with us today. I've known Mr. Madaan since I was 10 and I've always looked up to him. And for a little bit of background, Mr. Madaan is the head of information and cybersecurity. He has extensive experience in keeping data safe and managing tech risks. Welcome, Mr. Madaan, and could you please say hi and tell our listeners a bit about yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Ananya. Thank you for having me. So, I'm Yogesh, as you already introduced me. I live in Singapore. I've been here for close to 20 years now. I've worked with some renowned banks before. I think that's where, in one of the meetings, I met you with your father. I work for GIC right now. In my capacity, I had technology and security risk. Yeah, that's me.
So, starting off with the first question of our interview, what are the key changes in the information and security landscape from a decade ago versus now?
It's a very interesting question, actually. I ask myself sometimes the same question because I started my career around 20, 21 years back. I graduated from the college. So I would say in last 20 years, not just a decade, maybe 2 decades, right? So information security landscape has undergone significant transformation. And it's due to the technological advancements, obviously, evolving threat vectors, changing regulatory environment, which has changed a lot now. It wasn't there then. And just to give you the context, perhaps to your listeners, have you heard the names like Edward Snowden, Kevin McNeek?
No, I haven't.
No, Alan Turing. Okay, so this will help you to maybe your listeners also to understand this field more, right? So in Second World War, there was a machine created called Enigma, and this machine was actually creating the codes and which the Allies were not able to read, and these codes were sent uh, you know, by Germans to their attackers. So there's a person called as Alan Turing in the history. He's the one actually who wrote something, who actually built the first computer to break that code, right? So if you see from that perspective how things worked in the past, it was very different. Similarly, if you read about Kevin McNeek and see the techniques he used to hack into different departments, to hack into different companies, were very different. A decade ago or 2 decades ago, cyber threats were primarily focused on individual hackers, right? Small scale attacks. It was not state sponsored. It wasn't things like ransomware, for an example. Today, we face highly sophisticated and organized cybercrime syndicates, national state actors, APTs, and these attackers employ complex techniques, polymorphic malware, zero-day exploits, social engineering. The techniques have also changed. In the past, these techniques were not used. Did they exist? Yes. The first malware which I remember I read about was in 1980s. It was used in a floppy disk. It was given to some health workers on the note of some study material, some reading material, and they went home to read that material, and zoom, the data is gone. It's encrypted, right? And people had to pay $200 to get their data, and they paid. And this guy was like a Robin Hood, so he donated that money to some organization, right? So things existed, but were not used that much or in that sophistication the way they are used now. And you see things, which have come up in this era, rise of cloud security, for an example. Things are connected, endpoints, IoT devices. All these things have come now. Just imagine that if you had in the past everything in-house and you had a good perimeter security defense, it was hard to get in. I will not name many people, but one of the hacker's story is that this person tailgated somebody to get into the office, and he asked somebody, "Hey, where is the network team sitting?" And they just believe that he works there. They told him, "Hey, in that bay." He actually went to that bay, and he found somebody's computer open. We insist on always locking the computer, especially in the old times. I remember, please lock it. Now we close the lid of the laptop and it closes. In the olden times, we didn't have laptops. We had desktops mostly, right? So he was actually able to connect his USB to the desktop and download the malware, and then he went home. He was able to connect to his computer from home and did whatever he did. So you look at the technique. This person had to go there physically to install something, to find a loophole, which he did eventually. But in today's world, that doesn't happen. The attacks are more sophisticated. We are more connected than in the past. So I think security has taken much more complex field now than it was before. Data, data was an angle which people did not understand data much at that time. Internet was new 2-3 decades back. Now we have so much data about everything. So data is new gold, as they say. So we're trying to analyze data. If you see the rise of AI, it's actually on the back of data. If you don't have data, if you can't feed anything to AI, logically you have nothing. So data has become very, very important for us to protect. So the rise of cloud, AI, machine learning, zero trust or zero-day vulnerabilities, all these have come up, which have complexified this whole thing. So it hasn't been. I started my career working or learning on 8085s, 8086 microprocessors, which you might not have heard what those are.
No.
So it was the beginning of the sorry, of the computers era. So a lot has changed since then. You see this rise of cryptocurrencies, for an example, which we had never heard in the past, that you can just have this electronic money. And then the theft of electronic money, right, which is happening now. The exchange is getting hacked and millions and billions are being stolen. I think there was a hack in India just a week back where they took away $230 million, right, worth of crypto. So security has changed from every angle in the last 2 to 3 decades. And that's due to the very fast advancement, very swift advancement in technology itself, the way we are changing. In the past, if you see, some new field has come up now in current era. It's called threat intel, which is quite a big field itself, right? We didn't have that field as a big field in the past, right? So collaboration, information sharing has increased a lot from both the sides, attackers and defenders. So importance of collaboration, information sharing among organization has grown. Obviously, it has to grow. We can't stop hackers without collaboration. We know hackers collaborate. Have you heard about something called as ransomware as service?
I've heard of ransomware attacks, not
Okay.
service.
Okay, so this is another change, right? In the past, if somebody had to do a ransomware attack, they had to write their own ransomware. Ransomware is nothing but a malware which you have to write, right? And it took knowledge, took a lot of time to write that, right, and test it, how it works. Now there are companies who are selling ransomwares as ransomware as service, as cheap as $200, right? All you have to do is reverse engineer it, change the password, and you can wrap it in some email as a payload and can send it to somebody. And if they download it, done, boom, you have money, right? Easy money. So these things didn't exist in the past. Now people are seeing this as easy money also. So a lot of youngsters who wouldn't have thought about this field in not a very good way, to be honest with you, they're thinking about easy money. So these services, which were tough to get hands on, becoming available easily has changed the world, right? So, in short, we had to do social engineering in the past, which is prominent now also, but we had to do, right? So, I just mentioned a person, Kevin Mitnick. So, Mitnick was known to be master of manipulating people to get information. He took, what is dumpster diving?
Yeah.
Okay. So, he actually did that. So he actually did dumpster diving to collect the information from the trashes to find discarded manuals, printouts, other documents that provide insight into companies' security measures, systems, policies, right? He actually did that. So there was a method which obviously we don't use now. So things are much easier now, right? Uh, Technical exploits, as I said, existed, but you had to write them. Now they're available. Another rise of things have happened comparing to the past is dark web, which wasn't that prominent in the past, right? Well, maybe 30 years back didn't even exist. So dark web has come up. So people go to dark web to procure these malwares, to procure many other bad things which they should not. So the security has changed a lot. People have changed a lot, and governments have done a lot to come from regulatory perspective. You see, you have lived in Singapore, so you know how strong MAS has been. Many of the projects you and myself and your father was involved together. So now you live in US, you know how strong laws and regulations are from Fed or from SEC, which we have to comply with. So I think both the sides who attack and the sides which defend, likes of ourselves, and the sides which help us to defend, and the governments or government agencies, have evolved a lot. And I see this evolving a lot in the future. So yeah, I think I will conclude my answer that things have changed a lot. I think humans have evolved a lot in the last 30 years. I will not touch humans as topic now. They will take me a year to talk. Um, but yeah, I think people like yourself who are keen to learn about technology, about security, definitely would witness it, how you will change the world, not see changing the world, you will actually change the world. Plus, it's good to read, to understand how the world was. It will help you a lot to evolve faster, to transition, easily into the new world. Yeah.
So with new changes, obviously would come new challenges. So what are some of the key challenges that you've foreseen in managing information security and now as well as 1 to 2 decades down the line?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. So this is actually again, you know, connected to what we are talking about. So as we look towards next 1 to 2 decades, the information security landscape will continue to evolve, as I said, and it presents new challenges. I'm sure you have heard about something called as quantum computing.
Yes.
Okay, so it was very tough to break encryption with traditional computing. With Now, why do we use encryption? We use encryption for our traffic, how it goes from one place to second place. We use encryption to protect our data. You know, we encrypt our data, right? So any encrypted transmission, any encrypted data with the traditional computing was quite tough to break, right? Uh, but now with quantum computing, that changes the whole game. It's really fast computing, right? It's like supercomputer, which we heard about in 90s. They were building an IBM, and now the IBM built this new giant quantum computing, right? The concept is quite old, but definitely the machines are quite new, how they're building it now. So I think quantum computing changes quite a lot. So it has potential to break, I would say, almost all cryptographic algorithms which exist today. Many of our existing security measures will be obsolete if quantum computing becomes well, I can't say if, but when reality. If it's not existing now, it's already, if it's gone, we already have this as reality, right? So developing and implementing quantum resistant cryptography will be a crucial step to protect sensitive data, right, from being decrypted by quantum computers. I'm sure we'll have, we have these generational changes where kids like yourself come and want to learn and obviously have evolved and are smarter than us, to be honest with you. I'm sure the computers are smarter than us. Kids are smarter than us. So kids like you have to fight these new machines now, new menaces, right? We fought with the old ones. So we have done a decent job. Now it's your turn. So somebody will write, somebody might be writing that algorithm to protect against quantum uh, computing. That's one. Now, I'm sure you have used ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I think I think everybody in your school might have, right? It's not just you. I mean, yes, different use cases, how kids are using it. But have you ever used it to write a code?
I have used it to help debug some of my codes, yeah. Find some errors in codes that won't run.
See? So in the past, that didn't exist. Now we're using it for the good cause, for debugging our codes or writing new things. You can actually do the bad things with ChatGPT also. It's data, it's a model, it's algorithm, right, which has to work. So if you ask ChatGPT to write a code for brute force, it will. If you ask ChatGPT to write a code for Nmap monitoring or scanning, it will. It will scan. It will give you a code to scan the network. You have to be smart to perhaps give a prompt. How do you get it? But the point being, people had to write these scripts in the past. They had to be self-sufficient. They had to read about these things before writing these things. Now it has become super easy. Now the attacks which we will not even expect can actually become reality. So artificial intelligence, machine learning will be increasingly leveraged by cyber criminals. It's being used by us. It's being used by yourself in the um, school students, college students. So we're used by criminals also, right, to create more sophisticated and adaptive attacks. AI can be used to automate the discovery of vulnerabilities, which we have seen. There are many tools in the market who are using it. Craft highly personalized phishing emails. All right, phishing is one of the key methods how people have attacked in last decade. I would say uh, maybe 80% plus attacks were done actually through phishing. Maybe more. I'm just being conservative. So AI can create very very sophisticated phishing emails. So that is another threat, right? You can create personalized emails, which we call spear phishing actually, about people. It can help in developing malwares that can evade traditional detection methods which we have today. And people are using that, right? So keeping pace with AI driven threats will require equally advanced defensive strategies, where I think we are seeing many companies evolving solutions which will help in this. You might see somebody coming in for AI protection also, right? Some company which will make actually a lot of money eventually if somebody can write something like that. What else has changed? Yeah. Um, Everything is smart now, Ananya. You have smart watches, you have smart ACs, you have smart fans, you have smart vacuum cleaners. So with everything being smart, that means it's getting an IP. It's connected to internet. So the threat increases. It wasn't that it was actually hard in the past to get into somebody's Wi-Fi or network. Well, I think 20 years back, Wi-Fi didn't exist actually in India, at least where I come from. So it was hard to get into somebody's network due to the devices being not that many. So more devices simply means more vulnerabilities. Now, are we sure that everybody updates their firmware or they patch their vulnerabilities? I doubt. Yeah. Are we sure that people even think about this, that I have to update my smart air cons firmware or my smart vacuums firmware?
Unless
Uh,
the notification comes in, nobody remembers.
that's a very good point. We are dependent on notifications now for everything, even for waking up, medications, going to gym, drink water. We are a notification generation now, right? We want to be notified for everything, right? So more devices, more connectivity, more vulnerabilities, more attacks, or at least the potential for cybersecurity criminals to do to attack. So we have to protect ourselves in that area also. So IoT has become a big area. Many of these devices are often poorly secured. I don't know how many times we actually even scan their firmware, or if there's an authority. There are some authorities who actually scan this, but not everywhere. So ensuring security of growing number of interconnected devices will be a significant challenge in the future. This is how we will see, and we have to evolve against these things. Data privacy concerns I talk about. We need stronger regulations on that. We need stronger regulations against use of AI. The collection and use of vast amount of personal data will continue to raise privacy concerns, ethical concerns also. So we have to strike the balance, leveraging data for innovation and protecting individual privacy rights. I'm again talking about ChatGPT, right? So they actually use your data to train their systems. Now, it could be your private data. So are we saying that you can't use my private data, or do you have any authority to say that? So again, regulatory guidelines have to come to protect citizens, right? Um, Last but not least, area I'll touch is supply chain attacks. In the past, people had old systems. They buy the software, they use it. It's installed on your laptop. A simple example will be your Microsoft Word, right? So I don't know if you remember or not, maybe even 12 years back, Office 365 or M365 didn't exist, right? So you could not use this Office 365 on the cloud. It was downloaded on your laptop. You buy the software and you use it. And now it's subscription based, right? Everything is in cloud. Now, many of these companies depend on each other. I just gave an example of subscription model of the cloud, not literally supply chain management, right? So if a bank connects to another company to rely on, let's say, reconciliation, for an example, or order management, for an example, and everything is on the cloud, that creates interdependency between many other companies. SolarWinds had that attack a few years back, if you remember, or if you read about this, about supply chain. I mean, there are tons of attacks based on supply chain, but supply chain has become a new issue for everybody. Well, not a new issue, but significant issue now. So security of supply chain will remain a critical issue. Attackers increasingly target third-party vendors. When you buy something from somebody, uh, did you hear about what happened just 2 weeks back, maybe a week back with the CrowdStrike?
Yes. So Microsoft did that.
Yeah.
Or the yeah.
So it's an example of supply chain, not a direct example, but indirect example. So they changed a signature, a driver in CrowdStrike. They downloaded that by default, and it took the Windows down. The whole world was talking about this, right? The airports, the banks, the government organizations, whosoever used that version of Windows, they were in trouble. So they had to delete that .sys file to recover. Now imagine if it's done by a hacker, right? Something similar. Now, because we have so many systems we are dependent on, these things can be packaged anywhere. So anything you buy these days to install in your ecosystem, it has to be scanned properly. It has to be measured, checked properly to say yes, it's safe. You can put it in your ecosystem. That's what supply chain is, right? So I think Ensuring the security of entire supply chain, from hardware manufacturers to software providers, will be essential to prevent supply chain attacks in the future. Do we have regulations in place? Yes, we have. I'm very happy to have some strong regulations. I mean, some other factors you will see will be definitely human factors, insider threats, how they will increase, emerging technologies, global cyber warfare, geopolitical tensions. You see what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, that increase the number of attacks, that increase the number of various types of attacks, not just one type, but many types of attacks. With AI is a machine, but we need humans to fight with this, right? So we need more people. So skill shortage could be another area you can look at. Long-term impact of data breaches, things like what happened a week back for CrowdStrike. This will have a ripple effect, right? Now your EDR was actually not working for some time. This was an opportunity for hackers to send those phishing emails and to bypass actually your EDR if they can install something on your laptop in that given window, right? So all these things will increase in the future. But again, as I said, good students like yourself who are who want to move towards this field, I'm sure that we are in safe hands.
So, if that is all, thank you very much for your wonderful insight. And that is all for today's episode. Thank you once again, Mr. Madan, for joining us and sharing your insights. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of the Secure Link. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it. You can also connect with us on Instagram at the Secure Link. And until next time, stay curious, stay secure, and remember your connection to knowledge starts here.
Thank you.